How you doing? This is Chris Wilson with Sorbella Farm CSA, and today what I'd like to do is show you a simple task of getting water from our pond, which you can see is right back there, to our field. Now the field is about a mile away, and it's about 60 feet higher in elevation than we currently stand. What you're looking at right now, this is our motor. This motor actually turns the pump right here, and then we suck the water from the pond into the pump. It comes into the line, and this line goes all the way up through the woods and goes all the way to our field. So basically the first thing that happens is right here on our pump we have what's called a primer pump. What this pump does is it creates suction, a vacuum suction in this line. You'll see the barrel down there. When you start the primer up, it sucks the water all the way up and gets it to the pump, okay? Because what has to happen is if you don't have the water to the pump, when you turn the pump on, it's not going to obviously pump any water. So this is the crucial part, getting the water from there to here. It sounds like a very simple task, but you cannot have a pinhole. If you have a pinhole, it just won't suck the water up. So, you know, as easy as this sounds to get water to the actual field, it can be a very frustrating process sometimes, and it's very hard to diagnose where the problem is as far as the suction or the air gap. So once the water comes to the pump, we turn the pump on. This pump is totally computerized right here. So we have sensors in the field, and when the field says we need let's say it's a field of tomatoes, and the field of tomatoes says, look, I need water. It then sends a signal to the control panel, which is up by our filter, and then the control panel sends a signal down here and it says, okay, the primer will automatically turn on. And then there's a gauge here, right in the back, and it senses, when it senses water, then it says, okay, we need to now turn the motor on. We turn the motor on, the water's there, then it starts to pump, and this flapper goes up like that when it's pumping water, and it pumps all the way up to the field. And the RPMs automatically go up on this pump because we have it set to a certain pressure. When it meets the pressure, then the engine, it stays at whatever RPM it is. When the field says, look, I don't need any more water, then what happens, it sends a signal down here and says, okay, we can shut the pump off. It slowly shuts the pump down. So when it's pumping, this flapper's up, and when it says it's time to shut off, the engine slowly puts the RPM down, and this comes down nice and easy. And then the engine cools off for about a minute or so, then automatically shuts itself off, and it stays on standby. So then if another field needs water, it sends a signal down here and it does the same process. And it'll automatically open the valves from field to field, which we'll show you. But let's drive up to where the filter is, and you'll be able to see what kind of drive we have to actually get to where the filter is that screens out all the imparticles. Okay, so now you can see we're at the field right now, and you'll see right back here we have 2 fertilizer tanks, and there are filters back there. We'll teach you a little bit about how the filters work. Okay, so after the pump, where does the water go? What it does is it comes up to what we call our media filters. We actually call them sand filters. So these filters right here work just like a pool if you have a pool. Each pod is stainless steel, and it is filled with very, very fine sand, just like super, super fine beach sand. It's totally filled up. So what happens is the water gets pumped at around 500 gallons a minute, and it's going to come into this pipe that's going up in the diagonal right here in the back, and it's going to come, and this is a 4-pod system. We need to have 4 pods because this farm is on the larger scale. It's about a little over a 100-acre farm, and we need this many pods to make sure we can keep the water clean. So that's what this filter does. It keeps the water clean because we want to take out as much debris as possible, because when it goes through an irrigation drip line, the holes are just pinholes, okay? And we don't want them to get clogged up. So what happens is the water comes up here in through the top and comes into each filter and fills it up, and then it comes out the bottom of each filter and it runs and it goes out to the field. Now what you have to do is we have a control box right here, and this control box controls all the different, these are back flush valves right here. So what happens is there is a gauge in here, a pressure gauge. There's a pressure gauge up top. So this is the pressure that's coming in from the pump. So if you remember, down at the pump, that has its own pressure gauge. So in this particular farm, at the pump, we run about 95 pounds of pressure. And when it comes all the way up the hill, it's about a mile away, and it's about 90 feet in elevation. So the pump is about 90 feet lower than where we are right now, and it's over a mile away down there. So if we're running 95 pounds at the pump, right here we're running around 60 pounds pressure. And then it's coming in. And what happens in here, there's a differential gauge, because as the water runs at 500 gallons a minute, the filters are taking a lot of the debris and fine particles out. So you eventually, over time, you will have a difference in the water that's coming in and the pressure of the water that's going out to the field. So what we want to do is we want to keep that pressure pretty much the same. So this box automatically, when it senses that there's a difference, about 10% difference between the pressure coming in and going out, it automatically goes through cycles and it back flushes. So what happens, the water's coming in, and when it goes into back flush, says it's dirty, this valve turns on and it pushes the water. Instead of allowing it to go down through the pod, it gives it a big burst, and it comes up through here and it pushes all the dirt out. Okay, and where does it run? It just runs out into the woods behind us. And what it does is it goes through all 4 pods in a cycle, and if it's still dirty, it'll run the cycle again. But typically the water that we get that comes from the stream is very, very clean, and it might, if I'm gonna run this all day long, like if the computer's running this, it might go into back flush 1 to 2 times throughout the day. And here we have our central computer system right here. Inside of this box, this runs the irrigation, the entire irrigation on this 100-acre farm. And we have a solar panel right here so we can keep the batteries charged that runs that computer. And you'll see that there's a wireless tower up there. So that wireless tower communicates with wireless towers in all the fields that we have. And what it does is it turns on it opens the valves to let the water go in each and every field and shuts them off all automatically. So this is the sand filter. This is a very integral part in our keeping everything clean. So we talked about the pump. The pump brings the water to the filter cleans out the water, and then it goes out to the field. So let's take you over there. Okay, so we're out to one of our fields. And after the water comes from the filter, it comes out of what we call a riser right here, and it comes up, and then this field actually has 2 zones. Okay, so this is what's called a valve. This valve will open and close the water, which goes out to this field right here. and then you'll see this is a T. There's another valve right here which goes out to another field, another zone. We try to keep all our zones around 10 acres because we find the system works really good. And if we want to do more acres, we have to have a bigger pump. We have to have more filters. So it just becomes, and also we have to think about when you're picking, you know, and you're doing all your planting. We feel this is a good size for our farm and what we do. So you'll see that this is all computerized right here. This is the wireless tower, and you'll see it comes down and it's wired into each of these valves. So let's say this field right here, it's tomatoes, and says, hey, we need water. Okay, and the sensor in the ground says we need water. So what it does is it sends a signal back to that computer over at the filter we showed you, and the computer says, okay, let's turn the field on. It then sends a wireless signal to this right here, which then runs down the wire and goes to this valve, says, okay, open the valve, and the water, it opens up, and the water goes through this 6-inch lay flat. And you'll see it goes down, and then it comes out through the field, and each row right here has a drip tape line. This drip tape line runs underneath the bed all the way down the row, and it's about 4 to 5 inches on the side of the plant. Okay, so you just plug it in here and it runs all the way down all throughout the field. So that's how we get water to the field, and it's extremely efficient. We don't waste water. It just slowly drips out of little emitters that are inside that drip line right there. And then what happens is the sensor in the field, when that says, okay, the water level is where I need it to be, it then sends a signal back to the main computer over to the filter, which then sends a signal back to this valve, and then it will shut the valve off right here. And that's the entire water system. So what are some things that can go wrong? Well, a lot of times what happens is, see this lay flat line, every time it expands and contracts, all those drip lines that are attached to it, that tube expands and contracts. So every once in a while, what happens is when you get all the pressure right in here, those lines will pop off. So you'll have to go and you'll physically have to put those lines on. It's kind of a messy job because usually you get muddy and you get wet, and as you know, you can do it for a long time, but you still have the kind of drip lines that always give you a problem. But you know, that's the way it is. I guess it could be worse, and we could be sitting behind a desk all day, but you know, we get to stay outside, have fun, get some fresh air, and watch these plants grow so we can bring you the best quality products we possibly can. So that's the water system. That's how it works, and we'll probably give you a video showing you everything as it's running so you can see how it works also. Have a great day.